Welcome back to this channel. My name is Frida Weisel, and here I explore the Hasidic Jewish world. Today we're doing a tour of a grocery store, but wait, not just any grocery store, a grocery store that's been completely turned over for the holiday Passover in the Hasidic community, and it is filled with unusual items that are central to how Passover is observed in this community. This is crumbs, it's bread. Some groceries are going to have a separate container where all the breads, bagels, cakes that are not kosher for Passover, meaning they are hummus, is going to be kept. So in some groceries, you can't even find the stuff you see here, like the bagels. You can't find those. You have to get them in a container outside of the grocery store because people are so concerned about not shopping in the same place their stuff for Passover as is sold hummus. Why is this forbidden for Passover? So the story of Passover is that the Jews were enslaved in Egypt, and God said, I will now release you from slavery. And in a haste, they left Egypt, fleeing Egypt without having time to let their bread rise. And so the bread baked in the Egyptian sun and turned into unrisen bread. And so risen bread is forbidden on Passover. You eat instead matzah, which are these crackers. So people are cleaning their houses out very thoroughly for all of these items for weeks now. This is Passover matzahs. The Passover matzahs here are handmade over a whole course of months, and they are really expensive. There's a very, very extensive process that goes into the making of the matzahs. Those of you who follow my channel, though, you know how to open a box of matzahs. This is very important. You turn it into cat's cradle games. All the kids here during Passover, you see them fidgeting with these from the matzah boxes. Those up there are shvurim, they're broken matzahs. It's really hard to get the whole matzahs, and oftentimes they break in the baking process, so they're selling separately the broken matzahs, which presumably will be a lot cheaper. But when you buy a box of matzahs here for $70, $80, $90, you're buying not just this enormous process of making these crackers out of water and flour, but also that they're keeping the crackers whole, they can't break, or else the customers will be really upset because you need whole matzahs. You cannot make cake on Passover with regular flour. It will cause it to be hummus, and so you can use potato flour. My family made our own potato flour, and that's what inspired me to do the video that I did of how potato flour is made. From like a giant, huge box of potatoes, you get a can of potato flour. It is a very labor-intensive process. For those of you who are gluten-free, you can come to a Passover-ready store to get gluten-free cakes and cupcakes. So all of this is going to be gluten-free version because it's made of potato flour. The night before Passover begins, there is a ritual of taking a spoon, a feather, and a candle and looking for 10 crumbs of bread in order to clean out your house of the last bit of bread, to throw that out. And the following morning, there is a fire where you burn your last leftovers of bread. The many weeks of cleaning culminates in that moment of everything being so clean and so lovely, and the children being so delighted by the process of the head of the household, the father, looking for those crumbs. Part of why this was developed was that people would have their children hide the 10 crumbs, and the children would forget, and then you wouldn't be able to find it, and you might have spent months cleaning your house, like taking apart the beds in order to clean it of anything that might be under it, and then suddenly there's the 10th crumb is gone, and there's like a terrible problem. So these come with a list of where you a paper where you'll record where you hid everything. Even items like stuff you put on your body will often have to be kosher. So if you're putting lipstick on your lips, you want to make sure that doesn't contain flour or something. That will be a problem. So this has a kosher symbol on it here, which means it's kosher, and it says kosher for Passover. And this is an entire book of the laws of Passover. So there are all sorts of items listed in here that you might want to know if you can use, and they will issue rulings and explanations. So they're looking at each individual product from these companies must be checked for the following ingredients. If they contain any of them, they may not be used. And you have to make sure that your makeup doesn't include it. Otherwise, you have to put it away. You can only use it after Passover. This whole aisle is going to be closed off for Passover. And there is beans, rice. I bet a lot of you thought all matzah is good for Passover, but actually a lot of this matzah is going to say not for Passover use. It's produced completely differently. It is absolutely off limits. But the reason that popcorn is a problem, cornflakes, crumbs, which is made of corn, rice, and beans, is because those are kidneys. Ashkenazi Jews do not eat kidneys, which are not things that are outright forbidden on Passover, but it's kind of another precaution. So they're closing off this entire section. But Sephardi Jews, they will eat rice, so I suppose they would have to go get the rice somewhere else for Passover. This is why gefilte fish has a bad rap. I have never in my life eaten out of such a jar. Most people eat gefilte fish out of a roll, like this. It'll be in a roll, pop it into a pan with water. It is delicious. Don't put it in a jar. So there's a lot of things actually in this store that are technically kosher for Passover, but because the facilities have not been cleaned for Passover, they are not sold as kosher for Passover, and so they're placed apparently behind the blue. And the ones that are intentionally produced in facilities that are kept clean from chametz will have the kosher for Passover label. Milk, eggs, and potatoes, I would say, are central ingredients for Passover because they are all A-OK. And so a ton of cheeses are being sold. Part of preparing for Passover is a lot of aluminum foil. People will cover spaces that are generally used for non-Passover with aluminum foil, and you'll sometimes see comedy sketches where everything is covered in aluminum foil as kind of a gag. If something has been cleaned already and you want to keep it that way until Passover, even though they're like still 3 weeks, you can put a sticker on it saying chametz do not open. This I find particularly interesting. It says mukor l'goy, sold to the goy, sold to the non-Jew. So there's a custom that you can take things that are not kosher for Passover and you can sell it to a non-Jew. Last year when we did the fire ceremony, the burning of the bread, this happened.
Okay, so
you give him something
can you give him something? Maybe
from
your head.
he sell you that all whiskeys, all bread stuff. All bread stuff is gonna get for you. It's gonna switch over for you. No, not this. So you give your head.
No, I'm not giving you my
No,
hat.
No, you take it back. You just
just to make the connections for that. You should getting the all bread for you.
you own all of his bread, and whiskey. Everything the Torah doesn't let for Passover.
I gave you.
He gives you for 8 days. Pick up the hat.
Not for 8 days. I sell it.
For always. Okay, for always. Pete, you're agreeing to buy all of his.
Give me it. That's it. Finito. The bread is yours. All this is yours, and this is mine, yeah?
Yes. You understand, Keith?
In the center of the picture.
He understands.
Finito. Thank you.
You have your hat back. He didn't want to give up his hat. Do you realize you have a huge audience, by the way, watching?
So the cameraman was asked if he wanted to buy someone's chametz. He was very, very confused. The whole thing was hilarious. But he got money to buy someone's chametz, and the family that sells their chametz, let's say they sold a cabinet with their questionable items or their liquors, they will put a sticker on it so the family members will know this now belongs to a non-Jew for the duration of the holiday, and after the holiday it is bought back. As a part of Passover, people will buy carrots that have not yet been washed and other vegetables that have been taken out of the ground and still have earth on them. They still have the soil on them, and that's because they are trying to be extra careful not to bring things into their home that have already been processed. The caution is that in the process of washing, preparing, packaging items, they might come in contact with bread, with things that are not allowed on Passover. Okay, so this is horseradish. Terrible associations with this vegetable. It is customary to eat horseradish on Passover. In order to remember the suffering of the Jews, you revive those old memories by eating horseradish. Some people will have a custom of not using vegetables that you can't peel in order to make sure that they can peel whatever they eat before they eat it. They peel it themselves. It's customary on Passover during the big Passover meals called the Seders. It is customary to put on a Seder plate, on a plate of several items, something called the zroya, which is a piece of chicken wing. This is a tradition that we had in our family that I'm sharing with all of the single people of the world, that if you put the zroya in your pocket on the night of Passover, you are bound to be engaged by the next year. And as far as I know, it worked. Thank you. I was talking about it. It is a chicken arm, right? Chicken wing, yeah. After this video, they're going to be sold out, as all the single people are going to line up to buy chicken wings, walk around them in their pockets. One of the themes that evolves from looking at the produce and stuff sold here is that people are taking a lot of cautions to make sure that their food is not contaminated. It's called a chimra, which means to go the extra measure. It's not that people are literally thinking that their food will necessarily be touching bread, but it is the idea of going the extra measure, to take the extra level of precaution, that is in itself an act of kind of ritual that has its own meaning and significance. We spend many hours trying to crack this, but also cracking hazelnuts as well as almonds. See, there are still a lot of people who are going to buy stuff shelled. This is the newspaper. A gentleman stopped me on the street on my latest store and he said $300 is the budget for Passover reading material. I know you wonder what this is, but this is not for swimming. This is for dipping your kailam, which are your pots and pans and glasses that have to be washed once before use. After buying, before use, they have to be immersed in a special pool of water that's well water and spring water called a mikveh. You might have heard of a mikveh as a women's ritual bath, but actually cups and dishes also have to be immersed in the mikveh before they are used for the first time. So if you just bought brand new kosher Passover stuff, you can immerse it in here, and then you say the blessing that's on the wall. You're not allowed to hold it, so you'll do it with this, because you're not allowed to touch it. It has to be fully immersed in the water, so you do it like this. Kosher, and they have rules over here for how to do it correctly. How many boxes of potato starch have you?
Probably about $10.
Really?
$8-10, yeah.
Did you make cake starch?
No, we buy it. We buy it ready-made.
How many cakes have you made?
About 20, 30.
Really?
Yeah.
Hard work?
Good work.
Good work?
Good work. Kavod yontif.
Kavod yontif.
In honor of...
Very nice. Have a Chag Sameach.
You too.
As you all know, I love sweet stuff, so I have to share with you on our final note the wonderful sweet stuff of Passover, this whole industry of gluten-free kosher for Passover things. Every year there are new products. All of these things are not made with regular flour, they're made with usually potato flour, and a lot of the traditional foods will have, like the rainbow cookies will have a take for Passover. I want to say a special thanks to Landau's grocery store on 18th Avenue in Boro Park for being so friendly and welcoming to us, and for bringing us into the spirit of Passover. And I wish you all a great Passover. There is an expression that we would say every Passover, Shenu Abu B'Yerushalayim, may we be in Jerusalem next year. It's a refrain that expresses the great desire for redemption, which is something on a more overall theme that speaks to me, the hope for peace, the hope for the end of suffering after such a hard year. So I am leaving this on that note. Chag Sameach.